What's up, YouTube? All right, we got the Instagram going. Finally, it's been about a month and a half since I've been able to go live on Instagram, so it's great. Been blocked there for a little while. Welcome everyone. Good to see you. Just flew back home today. I was spending some time in Texas. I was in Austin, Dallas, visiting some friends, working on a little project in Oklahoma. Got some land over there, and busy. It's been a busy week, but I've got some cool things to share with you guys today, and answer some questions as always. So I want to talk a bit of, first of all, I'm teaching a free class next week, next Friday. There's a link in the description here on YouTube on this video. Just check out the link it's in the chat as well. It's in the description of this video. Instagram, there's a link in my bio. It's free training I'm doing next Friday, Male Sexual Mastery Secrets. I've done this several times before, and a lot of people, I get a lot of great feedback on this training. It's basically a comprehensive overview of the sexual kung fu system, learning how to channel your sexual energy through your body, how to have non-ejaculatory orgasms, how to overcome premature ejaculation, and manifest more abundance in your life with your sexual energy. So it's a really awesome training. We're going to be doing lots of practices together. So again, make sure you sign up for that. There's a link in the chat and the description of this video on YouTube. There's a link in my Instagram bio as well. So that's next week. Don't miss it. It's going to be awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about what I would consider the ultimate biohacking, which is working with your sexual energy. I mean, really work any sort of internal energy training system, but especially working with your sexual energy, because it's this very powerful, raw, expansive, amplifying, creative force, right? Obviously, this is biohacking, something that's been kind of a buzzword for a while now. People and what it really is people are looking for ways to increase their performance, increase their mental faculties, clarity of thought, memory, focus, concentration, energy levels, increase in vitality, youthfulness, hormonal levels. And so this is a popular subject, right? But there's many factors to this, right? The thing is that we live in this world of instant gratification. Everyone wants to just be able to take a pill and have this problem solved for them, right? And sure, there's a lot of these these marketing well marketed supplements that will you'll get some benefit from, right? But it's often in the biohacking community, it's all these like external things. It's like, well, I get this device, I take this pill, but I still have all the same habits I had before, right? And if you really want to make a significant shift, if you really want to increase your longevity, bring harmony to your mind, your body, your emotions, everything, really have some powerful vitality and radiant energy levels, it takes a bit more than just, taking external things. And what I found the most efficient is having an internal practice, specifically working with internal energy. I do this through Qigong, through breath work, through meditation practices, through yoga, and of course, through cultivating my sexual energy, channeling this sexual energy. And I would say this is probably one of the strongest factors, is managing your sexual energy, because for so many people, this sexual energy is, or rather the impulses that they're driven to act on, is creating a lot of depletion to their energy, because your sexual energy it's this core refined energy that you create with. For men, this kind of represents the semen, the sperm, the most refined fluid in the body, which is loaded with minerals, vitamins, enzymes, life force. It's pure life force, very, very concentrated life force. And so in this world of excessive stimulation and instant gratification, men get in the habit of ejaculating every day just to get a quick fix, just to get a quick dopamine hit and to get that 5 seconds of feeling good. And this completely depletes your energy in the long run, right? But the other thing that you can do for this is, instead of sending that energy out, you build it. You build the sexual energy and you circulate through this body. I talk about this all the time, but maybe some of you who are kind of new to this, you stop leaking this energy. So this is the biggest thing here, is you stop the leaks in your energy. It's like, why are you experiencing fatigue? Why are you experiencing brain fog, depression, anxiety? You're leaking energy. out in various ways. Maybe it's too much thinking, too much worrying, mental energy. We disperse a lot of our energy through our brain and our thoughts, right? When we're just constantly thinking, worrying all the time. We drain our energy by working too hard, too much doing, too much busyness, right? We drain our energy through poor sexual habits. This is a very large area of energy loss for men, especially for some women as well, just having poor sexual habits. For most men, that looks like jerking off to porn every day, ejaculating every day, because again, you're just throwing your life force down the drain. It's gone. Depletes your core energy over time. Your kidney energy, specifically in Chinese medicine, the kidneys are the battery of the body, and they're the water element. The water keeps birthing life. And when that kidney energy dries up, you can no longer keep reproducing yourself sexually. What does that mean? Your cells are unable to keep reproducing themselves properly. You age and you die. And so what we really want to do is slow this process of aging down, right? And yeah, you can take supplements, you can do red light therapy, use stem cells, all these things that, these external things, right? But what I've personally found the most efficient, effective, and from observing, my teachers and people in the world around me, the most efficient things have been managing your energy, being observant of how am I spending my energy every day? What actions am I taking every day? Am I spending time meditating? Am I spending any time recharging? I mean, it's like money. It's like your finances. Obviously, if you just spend money every day, you're going to run out of money. But people don't realize that this is what they're doing with their energy. They're just spending their energy every day, and they're not doing anything to invest, to build their energy back up. And this causes your energy to decrease over time. And so when you become aware, oh, maybe I shouldn't just get on my phone in the morning and start scrolling through social media. Maybe I should do a meditation. Maybe I should spend some time in nature, breathing in the fresh, oxygen rich air. Maybe I should, exercise, get my blood moving, get my chi moving, do some qigong. Maybe I shouldn't, impulsively jerk off to porn. So the biggest part of sexual kung fu, of course, is for men learning to have non-ejaculatory orgasms, because this isn't about suppressing your sexual experience. Sex, I believe, is a internal technology, something that's designed to heal us, something that's designed for us to create energy with, to create various things with, right? We generate tremendous amounts of energy when we're having sex. The problem is that most people have no way to contain this energy, and it actually disperses at the end. They lose this life force. For a man, this looks like ejaculating, right? Every time. So when you learn to engage in sex in a different way, where it's not about, doing it completely impulsively, just like, oh, well, I feel horny and it feels uncomfortable. So I need to as quick as I can, ejaculate, release this energy, release this pressure. Instead of the release through sex, it's a building. This is the new kind of paradigm in sex that you can transition to with sexual kung fu, is you build energy during sex. Sex is an exchange. Two lovers come together. They're arousing their sexual energy. When that sexual energy is aroused, it becomes very, very powerful. It's that amplifying. We all feel what it's like to be aroused. Something's changed. Something's shifted. Your energy is growing. It's amplifying. Everything's accelerated. When you can create a container to collect this energy within your body, storing it in your body instead of releasing it, you gain more energy. The act of sex releases hormones, youthful hormones in our bodies. For men, testosterone is increased during sex, but the problem is that when they ejaculate at the end, the hormone prolactin is released, which lowers your testosterone levels. You lose a lot of resources and you're in recovery mode, the refractory period, right? So sex can be the most regenerating, energizing thing that you can do, right? But if you do it in the right way, if you don't lose the energy through it, which most people are doing. And this takes transitioning from this very animalistic, uh, we get conditioned into this experience of sex where, we've seen so much sexual content, porn, and it just becomes this heavy energy in our genitals that we just want to thrust and release this charge, right? But when you transition it into being a more heart-centered act, You enter into sex and lovemaking out of love, love for yourself, love for your partner, love for the universe. You open up this channel to a higher connection, and you don't have the desire to release the energy at the end. You want to exchange this energy with your partner. You want to hold it in your body. You want to place this energy into your organs, put it in, you circulate it through your microcosmic orbit, you bring it into the organs, you store it in the Dantian, this energy center in the belly. And after that, you feel lit up. I mean, it's like, I see this a lot, but it's like, how do you feel, for men, how do you feel when you're like 10 seconds away from ejaculating? You feel amazing. Your energy's super high. You're super aroused. You're already in this orgasmic state. And then what happens? You go over the edge and yeah, it feels great for another 5 to 10 seconds. And then, you know, you go limp. Refractory period, you often feel at a low state. If you're really depleted, you often feel bad. You feel depressed, you feel lethargic, you feel like you deflated after this ejaculatory orgasm when you're really in a depleted state. And so, it's obvious that there's an energy loss happening here, and that doesn't need to happen. So when you're having sex in a more conscious way, where it's about connecting with yourself, connecting with your partner, generating energy and storing it, exchanging it between you, bringing it to wherever in the body that needs healing, it gives you the ultimate fuel, we could say. It becomes the ultimate energy that's driving you, this powerful, aroused, sexual, creative energy, combined with the loving energy you have when you get, it's important you have that heart space involved in it as well. It's a very, very powerful force. It transforms you when you start to have this type of sexual experience. It completely changes you. I think it changes your DNA. You start to become interested in different things. You stop seeking these external vices because, for me personally, once I started doing Qigong every day, once I started doing breath work, meditation every day, once I started having this more evolved experience of sex based on building and storing the energy rather than just, ejecting it out of my body, it got me higher than anything else. That's why I do this, that's why I practice, 2 or 3 hours a day doing all these different practices I'm doing, because it gets me so high and I feel amazing all day. I have this clarity, I have this focus, I have this concentration. That's what I think people are really looking for, right? Is to feel like this all the time, to feel good. Why do people take drugs? Why do people drink alcohol? Because they want to feel better than they do. But the question is, why do you feel in this low place in the first, why are you in this low place, first of all, that you feel like you need something to make you feel better, right? Because you're depleted, because something is missing in the flow of energy in your body, something's blocked. So when you practice sexual kung fu, you reestablish this free flow of life force and you feel good, you feel high, you feel in the flow, and you want to create, you know, lots of things. You want to create art to express yourself. You want to create, an exchange with the world. Like you want to create value, put things out in the world. For me, I wanted to start teaching this work to everyone who would listen. Right. I'm also a musician, and it really fueled my creativity in this way. So it drives you to do whatever it is you're already doing before, whatever you're interested in. It's going to amplify tremendously when you start cultivating your sexual energy. So it's really this, taking this natural process of nature and optimizing it, I would say, right? You're optimizing the sexual process to get the highest benefit out of it possible without, any potential depletion. That's what you're doing as a man when you're practicing non-ejaculatory sex. And that doesn't mean you can never ejaculate. You certainly can ejaculate here and there, but it's about lessening the ejaculations that you have and going longer periods of time without ejaculating. You're taking in more energy than you're releasing, so you're no longer in an energy deficit, which most people are in, and you build your energy over time. So as you age, as you as your practice develops through your life, you're constantly putting more money in your bank account. You're developing your energy. Like as you age, if you've ever met someone who's been practicing, qigong meditation for decades, they are vital. They are charged. They are happy. They exude this energy, unlike people who are depleted. When as they age, they just become old and rigid and miserable, and and you can just tell that they're just on this downward spiral. But it's different when you spend your life cultivating, right? And you go into old age with this powerful energy you spent years cultivating. You have the chi, you have the spiritual essence, you have this connection. And for me, it's the most fulfilling thing I've ever experienced, is to have this type of practice. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing this work, because the world needs it. People are we're in an interesting place on planet Earth right now. People are really focused. I mean, it's not difficult to see where people are focusing their awareness right now. So it becomes this question of, what do you choose to focus on right now? What do you want to grow and build in your life? And focus on that. Don't focus on all the weird stuff, all the, negative Nancy, dark timeline stuff. Focus on what excites you, what motivates you, what makes you feel happy, what makes you feel inspired. 100% keep your vision on that, and you'll always be on the right path. So again, to kind of wrap up this section, sharing this, guys. If you want to get started, join my free class next week, Male Sexual Mastery Secrets. You're going to learn, because I've talked a lot, and I know it's inspiring to hear about it. You're like, yes, I want to do this. But if you don't have a practice where you're feeling this in your body, where you're actually doing the work, nothing's going to change. You just have information, ideas in your head, and we all have, there's an there's an excess of information in most people's heads already. So you need to practice to feel this in your body. That's what will create the change. So join me next week for my Male Sexual Mastery Secrets, my class I'm doing next week. It's free. Just sign up. There's a link here on YouTube in the chat and in the description. Instagram, there's a link in my bio. Sign up for that while there's still spaces available, and it's going to be awesome. All right, I'm going to answer some questions now. See, there's some questions coming in already. Thanks for joining me, everyone. It's always good to see you guys. Again, it's good to be back on Instagram after I was banned from going live for quite a while. Zeke the Geek says, my girlfriend is excited about Tantra for the first time. Can't wait to show her some of your work. Awesome. It is life-changing to begin, the conscious sexual practice. It completely transforms your experience of sex. It's like when I first had, the tantric sexual experience, it was like, of course, this is what sex is meant to be like. This is what, being in a human body is meant to be like. Just absolute amazing pleasure, bliss, harmony, connection, love, expansion. Just there's no going back to the old the old version of unconscious sexuality once you have that type of experience. Etheric Mystic says, haven't figured out how to get the energy out of my root and sacral. Well, join me on my class next week, and we'll go directly in how to do this. Just takes practice. Fakiha says, I started doing Kegels from your page. Does it have any benefits on women? So for women, yes, Kegels can be beneficial. For men, I don't really recommend Kegels anymore. For most men already have too much tension in the pelvic floor. So doing Kegels on top of that makes the issue worse, which leads to premature ejaculation and poor irregular erections. But for women, Kegels can certainly be good. Iman says, how to release deep fatigue stored in the body. Are dark circles around the eyes related to that? What's the traditional Chinese perspective on that matter? So yeah, typically when you have dark circles around your eyes, it's fatigue, a little bit of depletion. So it's not necessarily that you have fatigue stored in your body so much as that you're likely in a state of depletion. This is often your adrenals are a bit tapped, your kidney energy, the water element. Again, I mentioned before that in Chinese medicine, the kidney system, which is the kidneys, the adrenals, the bladder, the genitals, all the fluids in the body, the bone marrow, are the water element. And this is basically our storage system for energy. It's our battery, right? And so when your kidney energy is low, you feel depleted. You get dark circles around your eyes. You have trouble getting up and going in the morning without a cup of coffee or something like that. So the key to this is to rebuild your kidney energy. More stillness. The kidneys do not like constant work, constant action. They want stillness and rest. So ask yourself, how can you incorporate more stillness and rest into your life? Practice meditation, practice, stillness practice. Qigong is phenomenal for rebuilding the kidneys, specifically the Zhanzhuang Qigong. Look up standing meditation, Zhanzhuang on my YouTube channel. You'll find it. But yeah, rebuilding the kidneys. There's also several Chinese herbal formulas for tonifying the kidney. The kidney yin specifically is what I usually want to focus on for that. You can go to a good naturopath, acupuncturist to help you with this, but a kidney formula I like is Shou Wu formulation. as in he shou, which is a Chinese herb. Just look up that, you'll find a shou. I like dragon herbs a lot for that formula. Yeah, you need to rebuild your core energy. So reduce stress, reduce, overworking, and more stillness, more calmness, more relaxation, more energy building. Holistic Health with Harry says semen retention rocks, the great energy uplifter and baseline all guys should do. Absolutely. Siri says, I have to thank you, John, big time. Been dealing with erectile dysfunction, numb genitals, weak orgasms, and low libido for over 2 years. Totally shocked at the quick results. How is this possible after years of suffering? Are you as surprised by this as I am? So I'm not sure if you had another comment in there where you said like what the results were. I'm not sure if that got cut out. Sometimes not everything you type in YouTube shows up for some reason. So, but if you overcame those things, that's awesome. And that's what happens when you do sexual kung fu practice, when you focus on rebuilding your energy, is your health improves, your libido improves, your vitality improves. It's not true that we have to decline as we age. Everything declines as we age. It's not true. That's really what I was talking about, earlier. Is when you practice your life, when you develop that daily practice of cultivating energy, then things improve over time instead of going downward. Baki Onigiri says, my pelvic floor is super tight. What's the best way to get my reverse Kegel back? I used to be skilled in this practice, but never started from this tight. Well, just do reverse Kegels, work on it. Check out my recent video, top 4 exercises for pelvic floor tightness. I share my favorite exercises. So go through that, check it out. It's on YouTube for those of you guys on Instagram. But again, this is such a, it's kind of an epidemic amongst men. I'm realizing this pelvic floor hypertension, meaning that your pelvic floor is constantly tight. And unfortunately, most people out there teaching, sexual practices are saying to do Kegels all the time. And this just makes the issue worse. It doesn't make sense to isolate. Kegels isolate like 2, maybe 3 muscles in the pelvic floor, but the pelvic floor is much more complex than this. It connects to other areas of the body. So you're overly isolating these muscles when you do Kegels and strengthening them in disproportionately to other areas of the body. And for most men, over time, this causes premature ejaculation, weak erections because of constricted blood flow to the genitals. I messed myself up doing too many Kegels, basically, right? And so that's why I'm really focusing on, rehabilitating the pelvic floor, relaxation, and balance. I did a masterclass on this recently, but it's very important to have relaxed pelvic floor, and this is what most guys need to focus on rather than strengthening the pelvic floor. Zeke the Geek says, I get excited every time I see you live. Sometimes I feel like you say most people aren't doing certain things, but is that really true? Kind of think we might all be practicing to a degree. I mean, I just mean most of you who are following me, you guys are already into self-development. A lot of you guys already have daily practice. That's great. That's fantastic. I'm kind of talking about the general collective, which I think it's safe to say, you know, most the average person on the planet. I mean, it's changing. A lot more people are becoming interested in meditation. There's yoga studios on like every corner in major cities now. Things are changing, definitely, but just overall, obviously, the focal point of humanity as a whole is not internal cultivation. It's more, external gain, I would say. I think it's safe to say that. I could be completely wrong. Slim Dizul says the blue ball / prostate discomfort is still uncomfortable when not releasing. Work in progress. So this is usually due to, first of all, again, tension patterns in the pelvic floor. The muscles here are really tight. And if you're doing a lot of, especially if you're squeezing, Also, during sex, it builds up this knot of tension over time that can become very uncomfortable. I experienced this myself. Um, and if you're getting too close to the edge, like you're going right on the edge where you're about to ejaculate and backing off, that again can cause that buildup of tension, which becomes very uncomfortable over time. The other thing is circulating the energy out of the genitals. That's the whole thing is for men during sex, all this pressure is building up in that area. And the sexual kung fu practice is to be constantly releasing that pressure by drawing it through the rest of the body. So it becomes dispersed over the entire body instead of just in the genitals. That will release that pressure as well. So really mastering that, which takes time, is I would say going to be the ticket out of this experience. And another thing is like, um, this is why I stress the importance of balance for men. Like after if you're having non-ejaculatory sex every day, for weeks, then eventually it's fine if you do have an ejaculation just to release the inevitable pressure that can build up, right? So it's all about balance here and what works for you. But that shouldn't be your first go-to. You want to be able to release that pressure without ejaculating. Chosen One says, can you share any tips to remain heart-centered during solo practice? I feel like when I shift into a lustful state, it makes it harder to avoid release. Yeah, it's totally true. I noticed the same thing. I made a video on this recently. Uh, it's called on my YouTube channel. It's called my number one tip for non-ejaculatory orgasm. Check that out. I go into this more in depth, but basically, we have this pattern of, I think as men, we typically have this pattern of, again, that lustful animalistic sex. And when we're masturbating, practicing self-love, self-pleasure, it's often simply happening from the genitals alone. There's no heart energy in there. That's what I really started realizing. I was like, why am I having these incredible, amazing, expanded cosmic orgasms when I'm with a partner? But when I'm doing solo practice, it was a similar thing for me. A while ago, I was realizing that. And so I started to look into this. I realized it's because, when I'm with my partner, I love her deeply. And there's this deep love, this deep connection, this intimacy between us, this emotional connection. And when I'm by myself, I don't necessarily start thinking that. Usually it's like, okay, sex. You think of like the imagery of sex, you think of body parts, and it's just all lustful, right? Which is fine. But that type of energy, that type of arousal, it creates this downward flow of energy. It gets very heavy and it wants to pull, the energy downward and ejaculate. So I started to really connect to my heart space and say, first of all, starting by getting into a deeply self-loving state. Learn to love yourself. Thinking of a time in your life where you just felt happy and open and expansive, you felt a lot of love, and just really put yourself into that state and think of just sending the energy up into your heart. It's like there becomes a sexual connection between the heart and your genitals, which there actually is, right? In Chinese medicine, the water and fire element have a very strong relationship to each other. The kidney and heart system, the kidneys create the blood, the water element, right? The heart pumps and moves that blood through your system. It's the fire of the heart that keeps the water from freezing and getting stuck. And also the kidney system cools that heat of the heart. So usually when people have heart attacks, it's not actually, according to Chinese medicine theory, it's not actually the heart that is the root of the issue. The root of the issue is kidney depletion. The water dries up, the heart becomes overheated, and it starts to fail. So, um, focusing on that heart and genital connect. I mean, it's just a practice. It's just, notice how what I recommend is you notice when you're practicing self-stimulation, notice this. I did this a while ago and it was a really interesting experiment. I noticed how when I wasn't thinking about sex so much, like once I was in a aroused state, I had no thought of like fantasy, no sexual imagery, just complete feeling awareness and like emotional connection, like trying to maintain that heart center connection. And when I was doing that, it was like I couldn't even come close to uh, ejaculating. It was just the sexual energy was just moving all throughout my body and it felt amazing. And I noticed when I would start to focus on like fantasy or sexual imagery thoughts, then all of a sudden the energy got pulled more into my genitals. My pelvic floor started to tighten, and I could feel, that kind of climb towards ejaculatory orgasm. So it was a very interesting experiment. So it really just takes practice. It's all it is you have to say, okay, as soon as I start getting into that fantasy, that lust approach, I'm going to stop stimulating, breathe, put my hands on my heart, connect back with that feeling of self-love, and continue. It's a practice. So that's why it's a sexual kung fu. This isn't like something you just do in one day. Kung fu is discipline, skill. It's serious time spent training. It's hard work, right? This isn't for, you know, someone who doesn't have dedication, quite frankly. It takes work to really develop this skill. But when you do, it's phenomenal. It's life-changing. It's, you know, it's all part of the journey. Zeke the Geek says, "Do you think people that have been on a bad vegetarian diet, like many I've known, here I am going with you, most people think, but damn right, maybe true. Maybe they should at least take liver supplements." I mean, we're getting a whole diet topic. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people doing diet. I'll just say this: there's a lot of people doing certain diets that do not fit the constitution of their body, and it causes depletion in them over time. I've seen people who are like very obviously very unhealthy, very depleted, and they're like, "Oh, I'm on this diet, and you know, it's so good for me." You know, so this is a disconnect between your mind and your body. Basically, it's like you because you read information, you got convinced that you should do this thing religiously. It really is kind of religious, right? It's a faith-based thing, but your body is actually saying something different because you don't really learn how to communicate with your body and what it actually needs. We're all unique beings. We need different foods at different times, even, right? So there's no single diet for everyone. So yeah, in general, um, avoiding depletion is important. Optimistic Raw. Yeah, I got the Raw key from Arcturus Raw. Johnny MF Doom says, "I've never been in love before. How do I know if I'm in love with her?" I mean, yeah, I think you'll know, right? But there's, you know, there's love and there's infatuation. Usually, what we call falling in love is just a infatuation. It's an obsession. It's a limited it's a short-lived period, right? It's like we could say the honeymoon phase in a relationship that turns into the crisis phase once you realize, oh, they're actually just a normal human. We both have issues. We both have this garbage. At that point, people either, you know, realize, okay, a relationship is this cultivation together. It's not all, you know, bliss. Or they say, oh no, I need someone new. I met this new person. They make me feel that the initial, you know, chemical high of meeting someone new, and they pursue that, right? So I don't know. Hopefully that helps. Let me adjust my light here. It's flickering a bit. All right. Got some loose bulbs. You know what I'm saying? Derek Trevino. What's up, Derek? He says, "Sup, Jonathan. I noticed you don't ever really shout out your Immortal Energy Arts Academy on these live videos. Are the teachings in that academy not applicable to sexual kung fu?" I talk about it when it's relevant. Obviously, I'm more focused on, you know, the sexual kung fu work specifically because it's my sexual kung fu channel. I'm actually probably going to make a separate channel for Immortal Energy Arts. Um, but I would say everything in Immortal Energy Arts is very, very applicable to sexual kung fu. And in fact, will take it to a more advanced level, even though nothing in that is directly sexual. Um, so yeah, Immortal Energy Arts is I have a separate online academy. It's just internal energy training. If you want to really, really go deep into potent, tangible internal energy cultivation, you know, immortalenergyarts.com, check it out. I got a link to the free training and qigong practices and some of my other videos as well. But yeah, it's just it's a separate thing. But again, it's very relevant to sexual kung fu as well. It will deepen your ability to work with qi, feel it tangibly, open the channels, and all that. Oh, okay, okay. Siri said basically I was okay. So you were having erection issues, numbness in the genitals, weak erections, and or weak orgasms, and you went to the pelvic floor video, and it completely helped you very quickly. Okay, that's awesome. It's great to hear. So yeah, pelvic floor rehabilitation. This is again, if you struggle with for a man, if you have premature ejaculation, if you have very irregular weak erections, if you have pain during after sex, blue balls kind of stuff, you probably have pelvic floor hypertension. And working that out is very, very important for doing this work, doing sexual kung fu. And so that's why I'm really, really focusing on this now. Because again, as I said, most people are just, every teacher I studied with said, do Kegels, squeeze the pelvic floor during sex to draw the energy up. And, it worked well for a while. And it works, you can pull the energy this way, but over time, it was giving me, again, super tension in the pelvic floor. My erections were becoming irregular. I was having occasional like pain after having sex and things like that. And there's just a lack of awareness of the male pelvic floor, I realized. And I had to do a lot of research, a lot of experimentation. It's difficult to find again because no one's really teaching this pelvic floor rehabilitation work that's not based on tightening, squeezing, strengthening the pelvic floor. If you are a healthy person, you do a moderate amount of exercise, you already have a strong pelvic floor. So it doesn't make sense to be doing Kegels on top of this from now, from what I understand now, and based on what I have experienced. Samuel Carson says, "What exactly would you define sexual kung fu as, other than just healthy sexual practices and awareness?" I would define sexual kung fu as the skill of working with your sexual energy and cultivating that energy to do more than just, have sex with, have animalistic impulsive sex, using that energy as fuel for spiritual development, personal development, growth, expansion, creativity, making yourself and the world around you a better place. That's what I would say sexual kung fu is. And that involves many different tools, many different practices of mastering the mind and body and, changing old habits. Basically, it's very, very deep work. You could say it's sexual alchemy. It is an alchemy of this raw, crude energy into something much higher and refined. Big Man Tate 7364 says, "Hey Jonathan, I might have asked you this in the past, but do you have any advice on healing scar tissue and trauma in the pelvic area? Zhuang and Yigong help a bit, but nothing seems to stick." Yeah, you're going to want something a bit more specialized for the pelvic floor stuff. So again, the pelvic floor work I've been talking about, make sure you go through I have a pelvic floor rehabilitation practice video. I have a video called Top 4 Exercises for Pelvic Floor Tightness. Check those out. I also, again, I did a master class recently, which I still have. I'm selling the replay on my website. It's called Awakening the Sexual Center, where I teach a comprehensive routine that really helps to release and balance the pelvic floor. So just doing deep work with the pelvic floor, I would say is going to really help with this. Also doing, this may not be for everyone, but also doing like deeper internal pelvic floor release work, which involves sticking something up your butt. They make something called a thero wand, which is like if you've ever seen those like wands that women use for, yoni trigger point work, men can use one of these up the butt, and you can release the muscles internally this way with trigger point release. And that can be very helpful as well. Ignatius says, "Could applying heat pad relax the pelvic floor?" Yes, the heat therapy can definitely help with tension in that area for sure. Squatting is number one for men. I mean, for everyone. Everyone should be able to do like a deep squat where you're sitting on the floor. We're meant to poop this way, quite frankly. We're meant. This is how we're meant to have bowel movements. And one of my teachers, I think it was Michael Wynn, who he has a theory that he says that prostate cancer is almost, prostate issues are almost don't exist in many Asian countries. And he thinks it's because they go to the toilet by squatting, whereas we sit on the toilet, which it's unnatural, and it causes more tightness and improper release when we're having a bowel movement. So squatting, if squatting to poop is great. You'll get a much better release that way. But also just in general, as a practice, you go into a deep squat, hold it, and breathe there for a few minutes. Really take breathing deep into the belly. You'll really feel your pelvic floor stretch out. Do this several times a day. It's amazing for the pelvic floor. Daniel Magana says, what do you mentally recommend when a potential lover didn't like your sex because of premature ejaculation? Well, I recommend training in sexual kung fu. Go through my ejaculation control course, learn to overcome this issue, basically. Don't worry about it. You're not alone. Most men have this issue. Statistically, most men last 4 minutes before ejaculating during sex, but train to overcome it. So this is the whole thing. It's like, um, there's often this metaphor of the battle of the sexes in like a lot of the Taoist texts talking about the sexual practices. It's like you're preparing to go to battle, right? And so, you need to train, you need to prepare, you need to build your forces ahead of time, because when the battle's happening, it's too late if you haven't been preparing. So train, release pelvic floor tightness, learn to move your sexual energy through your body, learn how to breathe during sex, learn how to relax during sex, learn how to hold large amounts of arousal without ejaculating, work with a microcosmic orbit. You won't have premature ejaculation anymore. So you just have to train. It's what it is. MZ says, hey, John, what are your best book recommendations you can give? Check out my top 5 books on sexual kung fu. I made a video about it. I share them there, but I'll mention 2 right now. One is Taoist Secrets of Love, Cultivating Male Sexual Energy by Montauk Chia and Michael Wynn. Excellent book on the overall, kind of philosophy of Taoist sexual practice. I will say, though, that the actual exercises in the book are questionable at best. Not questionable, but just they're too forceful. And it's geared, it's that basis of tensing the pelvic floor. They're forceful practices. So, but overall, the information in the book is solid. Just substitute pelvic floor squeezing for relaxation, and you'll be solid. Also, another book I'm going to recommend is, do I have it here? I think it's in another room. The Way of Energy by Lam Kam Chuen. Just look up The Way of Energy. Phenomenal Qigong book. It was the first book I read in Qigong, on Qigong, and it's still my personal favorite. Really, really great book. Name again, Taoist Secrets of Love, Cultivating Male Sexual Energy by Montauk Chia and Michael Wynn. Book on sexual energy. The other book is The Way of Energy by Lam Kam Chuen, which is an awesome book. Those 2 books, it'll be solid if you do the practices. William Zenowitz says, hey, Johnathan, how come some trees live to be 1,000 years old and other trees live to be 100? I'm not a botanist. I don't know. I can speculate, tree species. Why do some people live to be 60? Why do some people live 100? Maybe they lived in a more harmonious environment. Maybe they were happier. Maybe they had less stresses. Maybe they ate better. Maybe they didn't ejaculate too much. So for trees, what would this look like? I don't know. The soil that they have, the resources they have. Do they get enough sunlight? Do they get enough water? And obviously they'll adapt to these different conditions. But really, the saying is, I think it's the Tao Te Ching that says, the tree that's stiff and rigid is easily broken by the wind, right? And the tree that's flexible is, they move with the storm easily because they're flexible. And I think this is very metaphorical, obviously, for us as people. When we become rigid, like we think we know everything, we're stuck in our ways, we have no room left to be open to new ideas and to be fluid, then we become stiff and we're easily broken. What does this mean? It means, we get diseases easily. We experience, dramatic transformations in our life around us. We can't handle it. So when you're flexible, when you're open in your mind, you're open in your energy, you're able to adjust with the dramatic transformations, which we're all going through right now on the planet, um, effortlessly. So, but I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't know why some trees grow to be 100, some to be 1,000. I don't know. I'm not a botanist. You're on the wrong channel. No, I'm just kidding. It's a good question. Chosen One says, when I release and the semen is kind of yellowish, is that an indication I've been holding on to it too long and the semen is getting stale? Trying to find my balance. Thank you. Yellowish semen, I'm not entirely sure of. I haven't experienced this myself. There could be a variety of factors. I would maybe research this a little bit because I'm not entirely sure what this means, but it could be, from diet. It could be many different things. Generally, when your body's like, we need to get rid of this fluid, you'll have a wet dream, or you'll suddenly find yourself like almost completely unable to control your ejaculation no matter what during sex. Like you're just like right on the edge. There's all this pressure in your prostate. There's many factors here, right? But I'm not really sure about yellow semen, honestly. Jessica Yoga RT Wellness says, husband laughs when I bring it up. When I bring up not, what is one powerful fact or sentence to explain or convince him to try? Are you talking about not ejaculating? Might have left that out there. Well, here's what really put things into perspective for me. Again, is like for a man, the majority of their enjoyment from sex, okay, we'll say for the average man, the majority of their enjoyment from sex comes from that 5 seconds of ejaculation. And then they're spent. They can't do it again. It's actually a real bummer. It's very disappointing. I started realizing like this kind of sucks. Like, I'm actually not even focused on what's happening before that because I'm trying to rush to this peak orgasm and then it's over in 5 seconds. So really it's like 5 seconds of pleasure really for most men, and then recovery, and they're actually like lower hormonal state. They can't get an erection for a few minutes, for some men hours or days, or constantly ready to go 24/7. When you're not ejaculating, you don't have that recovery period, and you're enjoying the sex more because you're not trying to reach this ejaculatory orgasm. The whole act of sex becomes an orgasm once you are able to, and be in the moment and accept it, allow the energy to fulfill your body. So it's like sex can go on as long as you want. So it's basically like, do you want, that 5 seconds of pleasure, or do you want potentially 24/7 pleasure and more energy, more drive, more creativity? I would say, I mean, it's something men just have to experience, I guess. Unfortunately, not every man's going to be open to it. It's not something you can force, but you can, inspire and plant the seed, and maybe they'll be open to it someday. And it's also, having the right techniques, I will say, being able to, or the right mindset, being able to allow the energy to move through your whole body and store it, versus it just being stuck in the genitals, making you feel kind of edgy and sexually frustrated. So I don't. I hope that's helpful. Okay. Jessica says, "Thank you and health benefits." Well, higher testosterone levels. There's some scientific. We actually have a bit of scientific backing on this. There hasn't been a ton of research, but there was a study done in China, basically showing that when a man ejaculates, or no, sorry, when a man does not ejaculate for a week, his testosterone goes up 150%. Overall, more health, more vitality, more mineral levels. Zinc is lost through ejaculation. A lot of men are zinc depleted because they're ejaculating too much. They can't keep this mineral in their body. You feel more youthful. You feel more youthful. better sexual performance, better erections, all these things. Lofton Jones says, "Is post nut clarity a real thing?" Um, well, this is, I think, you know, the reference here is that when you're really obviously when your sexual energy builds and it's only in your genitals, it pulls you into that area of your body. So that's you're literally thinking with your dick. You're thinking with your balls, right? This is very real. You're not really thinking straight. You're just driven by this animal impulse. So it's just it's another filter of your lens of reality. We're always, observing reality through different filters, different lenses, different aspects of our being, right? And when your energy is really concentrated in your genitals, you're experiencing life through the lens of, this filter lower in your body. And so you're going to be driven to, for most guys, the number one priority will be, you know, have sex, find someone to have sex with. And so, there's the stereotype of the man who wakes up with a woman after a night of drinking. Is like, oh, like, why did I go home with her? Because we get, single pointedly focused on this impulsive thing and it makes us do weird things. So, versus after you ejaculate, you disperse that energy from your genitals. So, for some men, in some ways, you're thinking more clearly because you're not driven by that sexual energy driving you impulsively. So it's like, oh, of course I shouldn't sleep with this woman. I don't know her. She's not, a good fit for me, whatever. Versus just like, I don't know, there's a woman, let's have sex. So that's what's happening there. But there's other ways to do it. This is the whole thing is sexual kung fu. It's not really just about semen retention. Semen retention alone can be problematic if you don't do it the right way, because you don't have to ejaculate to get this clarity. If you're doing sexual kung fu practices, you can, because you're circulating that energy out of the genitals, which will enhance the higher faculties of the body. You bring it into the brain, enhance your thinking, your perception from a higher viewpoint. Bring into your heart, your intuition will increase, your compassion, your desire for connection. So yeah, there's many ways to go about it. Jayakar Vadla says, just wondering, I'm on semen retention and not ejaculating at all, as I was really addicted to it. Is it okay to never release? I mean, if you don't want to, that's fine, but you probably will still release. Your body will because it's not like the semen lives forever, right? Eventually it dies and the body either releases it through nocturnal emission, it urinates it out, or um, or reabsorbs it, right? So it's probably going to be released in some way eventually. So you'll notice, like, if you go, no matter what you do, after a certain time period, you have a nocturnal emission, a wet dream, then that's probably what your ideal cycle would be to release, right? And it's okay because this isn't, semen retention, in my viewpoint, is not about trying to go forever. Because when you go beyond a month, 2 months, maybe 3 months, it's usually not that long for most guys, though, your hormones actually start to lower again. It's like your endocrine system starts to atrophy a bit, right? So it's finding the sweet spot of retention and cyclically releasing. Slim Diesel says, shout out to Montauk. Yeah, if you're talking about Montauk Chia, he's the man. Got me, the man who introduced me to this whole world. Big Man Tate says, thank you. I'll check out those resources. What's the thing called? Thera Wand. It's Thera Wand, like therapy, THERA wand. Google that, you'll find it. And again, that's a tool for internally releasing the pelvic floor muscles, which can be very helpful. Zeke the Geek says, a lot of cultures actually eat in a squatted position. Also, connection, they eat and poop in a squatted position. Yes, yes. Squatting is very, very common for a lot of cultures. And these people are much more healthy in their colon, their intestinal system, and their genitals as well. The reproductive system is much healthier because we're meant to be able to do that. Most Westerners, they can't squat. They're just too stuck in the hips. And so obviously that means there's this stagnance, this stuckness in this whole area of the body. They have too much, toxicity, too much waste in their colons and things like that. So yeah, squatting is huge. Slim Diesel says Kegels actually help with premature ejaculation. I mean, it can seem that way because if you're having sex and you're about to ejaculate, if you squeeze the muscles, yes, it will stop that impending ejaculation from happening. So from this viewpoint, yes. And again, I spent literally almost 10 years doing Kegels every single day. And I believed it was helping my ejaculation control compared to how it was before. It definitely was. But notice this. I encourage you to experiment with this. Next time you're having sex or you're self pleasuring, notice what happens as far as like your arousal level and how close you are to ejaculating when you squeeze the muscle. Squeeze them really, really tight and stimulate your penis. And notice if it puts you closer to the point of ejaculation, just constantly squeezing it, right? And then relax the muscles completely and stimulate and notice what that does. And just observe. Do I feel closer or farther from ejaculating? And then do a reverse Kegel where you're actually pushing out as if you were trying to, push out urine or push out a poop as you're being stimulated. And notice if that puts you closer or further. So, if Kegels legitimately alone are, you know, deeply pulling you away from the point of no return rather than pulling you closer to it, that's great. That works for you. That's fine. But for me personally, I noticed, and really what it was I used to teach these methods of squeezing the pelvic floor, and um, a lot of men I was teaching it to were saying that I feel like I have to ejaculate quicker when I squeeze the pelvic floor muscles. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And I started to realize this myself. Oh, yes, this is actually making it happen for myself because I was compensating by really strongly drawing up the energy. So I made it work. But once I started relaxing my pelvic floor and using reverse Kegels as well, my ability to control ejaculation, increased tenfold. My ability to have full body orgasms increased tenfold. It was a complete game changer. So from a physiological standpoint, this okay, from an energetic standpoint, all the classics, the classic kind of energy cultivation texts, the Tai Chi classics, all the Qigong classics, Chinese medicine classics say that tension, muscular tension is the basis for stagnance of energy, which eventually causes imbalances and disruptions, even disease, in extreme circumstances. So it doesn't make sense that squeezing the pelvic floor should be attributed to circulating sexual energy. What I noticed is that my energy circulates better when I'm relaxed. If you practice Tai Chi, you obviously this very directly. So I understand like there's I think I'm not going to go into too much more, but I think there's a bit of a misinterpretation of what kind of the pulling of the perineum means in a lot of the classical texts. And it's been interpreted as a straight squeezing, doing a Kegel. And the Kegels, okay, physiologically, when you do a Kegel squeeze, it engages the sympathetic nervous system. It's wired into that fight or flight nervous system, right? Pelvic floor tension is very much connected to states of sympathetic activation. You will notice this directly when you start paying attention to this. When you feel stressed, you're squeezing your pelvic floor often. And because ejaculation is also connected to that sympathetic state, when you're doing that, you're basically, again, it's putting you closer to that point of no return. JCar says, I moved from India to Canada, not squatting anymore, LOL. Well, maybe it's time. Big Man Tate says, Way of Power. That's another one of Lam Cam Chuen's books. It's great, but the Way of Energy is a better starting point. Okay, Instagram, I'm about to lose my feed. It cuts me off at an hour. I'll jump back on live after this shuts off. So you click back on. Zeke the Geek says, once you really develop those muscles in the pelvic floor, it might be easier to let go too. Potentially, if you're training both strengthening and relaxation, pushing, stretching as well. But personally, I found when I completely stopped doing Kegels, my overall uh, sexual ability improved dramatically. Heather says, I'm working on clearing yoni numbness. Do you have any tips from a man's perspective? So, just my own perspective on this. Um, Numbness in any area of the body is really, you don't want to you're not comfortable in some way really occupying the space of your body, right? There might be some trauma there. There may be some numbness. Maybe you had, an uncomfortable sexual experience, an unconsensual sexual experience. There's some sort of kind of trauma or resistance in that area. And so really going into that area, sending it love, sending it feeling and intention is going to help reawaken it. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull my Instagram live back up and I'll get back on this subject. All right. Here we go. We're back. So, learning to kind of reoccupy the space of your body. Again, maybe there's some pain, there's some trauma from the past, or maybe simply, it could be a lot of things, right? I think for women, something very helpful for this is using a wand, using your fingers, a jade egg, something where you're kind of doing release type exercises, like trigger point release, where you basically they make wands for this specifically, where you insert it and you kind of pinpoint, different areas. You hold it there, breathe into that area, really feel it, and just notice what kind of emotion does it release? What kind of feelings does it release? What kind of memories does it release? You may find memories, from your childhood, from your teenage years, sexual experiences, whatever. You may find these things surfacing. And so, just allow yourself to smile at these experiences, accept them, and allow them to be released. So really just again connecting consciously with this area of your body. And also maybe, during sex, having slower sex. I made a video on slow sex on my YouTube channel recently. And because there's a tendency for us during sex, because we often are trying to reenact what we saw in porn through sex, to just thrust away mindlessly. And this numbs your nerves after a period of time. So having slow, intentional sex, really feeling every movement can be very helpful for this. But again, even you just by yourself in slow, intentional reconnection with your yoni, smiling to it, really absorbing your mind into that area, just feeling every sensation as you explore with a wand or fingers, I think will be helpful for reactivating that. And again, sending it lots of love from your heart. Hope that's helpful. Levi Jesse Gonzalez says the last year or so, the sun has felt different on your skin. Has anyone noticed this? I'm in the sun a lot. It does seem the sun's gotten a bit more intense, I will say. I typically don't burn in the sun that much because I'm in the sun all summer. Whenever the sun's out, I'm in it with as least clothes possible. And I've been getting sunburned a bit more in the past year. I feel like maybe 2 years. So I don't know. Interesting. Sepe says, "Do you do gratitude exercises?" I definitely do. Every day as I finish my meditation practice, I go into just like basically a gratitude practice where I connect to the space of my heart, feel just deep gratitude for everything I have in my life, everything I've experienced in my life, all that I am. Just really activating that heart space and that gratitude and compassion, and just radiating that out, and also just expressing what it is I want to create in my life. Like, what do I want to draw into my life, and feeling the gratitude and compassion for that as well. Camila Vargas says, this happens to me when I'm with a new partner. I tend to come fast, but if I have a regular partner, that doesn't happen so often. How to overcome this? Good question. I mean, the thing is that, when you're with a partner consistently for long term, you get to really know each other. You get to feel each other's bodies. You start to know each other. You start to really know the patterns that happen between you. And when you're with a new partner, it's completely different. It's completely different, you know, environments, a different exchange. It's just a different resonance, right? So there's kind of an adjustment period. Um, so it is what it is. Maybe you may want to choose to have a more long-term partner, if that works for you, whatever, or just step up your training a bit. Really mastering your breath, your energy, your arousal, relaxing during sex, all of that training. But it's all a learning experience. Silverlight says, how to release stuck energy in the sacral that seems to be not yours. Breath work / meditation doesn't seem to clear it. Only by releasing it gets cleared. Thanks. Well, it's in your body now, so it is yours, right? So you can either claim it or you can say, no, this is this thing that's happening to me and I'm a victim. So really owning it, whatever it is that's happening in your body, you own it. You say, all right, this is mine. I'm going to, let's harmonize it. Let's digest it. Let's balance it, right? So getting less of this like them against me mentality, more into this like I'm experiencing this for a reason. The external world is an illusion, so this is happening. What do I do about it? I will say, just in general, stuck in your energy in general is like, look, what kind of tension patterns do you have in this area of your body? Strong tension in the pelvic floor area, tension in the glutes, the thighs, certain like stuck stiff areas. I find qigong very, very helpful personally for just overall circulation. Working with the microcosmic orbit, just harmonizing, moving. Also, grounding is very, very important. Connecting with the energy of the earth, keeping that grounding cord going, grounding, physical grounding connection with the earth, constant, is helpful. Big Man Tate says, do you pay attention to the philosophy of Taoism, or do you just focus on the experiential, physical aspects? Does the mental philosophy help us, or should we just stick to the practice? I'm very much into the philosophy of Taoism. I would say it's had one of the most dramatic impacts on my life and how I live my life out of everything out there. So I definitely do, pay close attention to this and study it. I read a lot of the Taoist texts, and I mean, I really study everything. It's like I'm interested in everything that's out there, but I really love Taoist philosophy specifically because it's not really dogmatic. It's not religious. The whole thing of Taoism is that, basically everything's unknowable. It's like the Tao, the universe, what we might call God, is supremely unknowable. So anytime someone's like, "Oh, I have this system that will, take you to God. I can explain exactly what it is, what all the universe is," then it's already, we could say, compromised as a path, because the true source of everything is it's unknowable, because it's absolute potential. It's everything and it's nothing, right? So anytime it's like this is what it is, but it's not these other things, you've already lost it, right? I don't know if that makes sense, but basically to me, it's not a religion. It's not a like, I must pray to this being who's outside of myself. Otherwise, because I'm down here at the bottom of this pyramid, there's the priest above me, there's the angel above him, and then there's the supreme Lord, God, whatever, at the very top. It's an illusion. It's putting things between you and source, it's more of this. One of my teachers, Michael Wynn, talks about a spherarchy, that everything is just in these overlapping spheres of dimensions, and that we're all have this direct connection to our source. So the whole thing about Taoism is that we all find our own path. We're all here to experience something completely unique, and there's no like single path that everyone takes. And if there is, something that's promoted as like this one path you must take, it's probably corrupted, right? And so it's really a philosophy of freedom, exploration, and balance, I would say. William Zenowitz says, hey, Jonathan, when practicing sexual kung fu, how do you handle the situation of the woman wanting you to keep going when you make it clear that you want to stop? Good question. This does happen, doesn't it? I will say this, rather than make it like a frantic, like, uh-oh, like, no, like I have to do this for myself. You have to, that becomes kind of this conflict. Make it more of a dance of dynamics. I mean, first of all, the best thing is that, you get so solid with your, we'll say, ejaculation control, quite frankly, that you don't need to have it come to that to where you have to stop. But I know that it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of mastery of mind and body, and obviously every day it's going to be different. But make it more of a dynamic, alternating more vigorous, intense thrusting with slow, slow movement, very, very, very slow movement, almost like you're teasing them, right? You may find that the women actually love this, right? It's the dynamics that make it more interesting. And so make it less about like, oh, I have to stop, and more about, okay, let's slow down a little bit. Oh, you want me to go faster, don't you? Make it more of a play and a dance instead of like a frantic thing. And they may enjoy it. Or you can, disconnect, pull your penis out for a moment and stimulate her with your mouth or your fingers and make that just like a fun game. Jose, what's up, brother? B says, any tips for staying focused during long meditations? Two questions here. First, how to stay focused during long meditations. Practice. It's practice, right? I would say also avoid distractions. Avoid getting yourself into a scattered mental state before you meditate. That's why I like to do my meditation. One of the first things I do in the morning, I do my qigong, do my morning routine, do my meditation. Or maybe like go for a walk or something, kind of have a transition from your daily life into your meditation, and also simply practice. You start, maybe you don't go straight into trying to sit and meditate for an hour. Start with 10 minutes, start with 5 minutes, and then add a bit of time every week, every month, whatever, and just kind of build up, because it's really like strengthening a muscle, strengthening your focus, your ability to not just give in to every random thought going through your mind and focus on it, but to just like, oh, here's the thought. That's interesting. Let's just, I'm not going to attach to that. So practice and, spend less time multitasking, spend less time on your smartphone, your computer, work on really creating this laser like intention and focus with your energy, your mental focus, right? And then the second question is, what's your favorite standing qigong pose? Number one is, embrace the tree, the standard Zhan Zhuang. It's the king or the mother of all qigong is that posture, really. If you're doing it right, right? There's a lot of internal things happening. You could be thinking you're doing it, but you're not, because something's off. So that's number one for me. There's a lot of other ones I like too. I like the single-legged positions, like some of the Tai Chi, pretty much every Tai Chi, or whatever Tai Chi form you're doing, the end position, like the name positions, single whip, ward off, fair lady, work shuttles, whatever. Those make phenomenal standing practices. And the one-legged, where one leg is more weighted than the other, it creates more of a yang energy. You'll feel more of this chi engagement from those, whereas the double-weighted positions are a bit more balancing. So yeah, I like them all. Resident Warrior, I did not see your question. Again, for some reason, YouTube doesn't show all the comments they're typed in, so I didn't skip it. I did not see it. Sorry, you can type it in there again. Big Mentate. I completely agree. I'm not into religion. I'm not into dogma. I'm into creating my own path, creating my own connection with the source that I came from. The universal consciousness, and um, that's not something that can come from someone else. Anytime someone's like, I have the answers, you must go through me to connect to this. Like it's a control system. Anytime there's this pyramidal structure where someone's up at the top controlling everything, it has a very strong likelihood of being corrupted and turned into a dark side tool. So you gotta be careful. Don't put anyone above yourself. Seven Sins, what's up, brother? Zeke the Geek says, important because I respect your opinion. Do you think it's important to make her think you don't need her? Kind of like a power dynamics or abundance and something else. Okay, in some sense, yes, it's important not to be like needy and like, oh, I need you. What are you doing? Um, it's important to have a certain sense of detachment. I don't think that women find it particularly attractive to be like, um, what's the word? Just kind of drowned by someone's affection and attention all the time. Not so much affection, but just you know what I mean, like kind of a needy, the clinginess, right? Of like I need you, but at the same time, they want to feel your heart. They want to feel. I know there's the kind of stereotype that you have to be an asshole to women and just treat them like terrible. That's often just women who have daddy issues and are still playing that out. So it's this mix between expressing this connection you have with them, expressing love, and also not it being like a I need you, just like I more of a like I'm here, I enjoy you, I enjoy sharing and exchanging with you. That's great. I'd be happy to go all the way with this, but I'm not like a tool for you to like be under control from you. Like, at the same time, I'm happy to go my own way at any point. So, that's what I would say. Baki says, question, do you feel being atheist and only looking at chi, ki chakra as the electricity in your body, breath controlling the chemicals in the brain and body can affect the practice? I used to be spiritual. It's an interesting question. And first of all, there's nothing inherently spiritual about these energy practices. Like Qigong, there's nothing inherently spiritual about it. It's a very almost mechanical practice in the sense that like you do this thing, the chi, there's nothing inherently spiritual about chi. It's simply a mechanic of the universe, just as electricity is, right? It's really up to you whether it becomes spiritual or not. It can certainly become a path of, deepening your consciousness and a connection. Something that really helped me, I mean, I would say I was in this like atheist stage in my teenage years when I started realizing kind of the absurdity of religions and there's this man with a big white beard sitting on a cloud watching you. And if you do, he loves you unconditionally, but if you do just like a little thing wrong, he's going to send you to torture beyond like eternity of torture. I'm like that doesn't make sense. I'm like, this guy is worse than the average human. How could he, you know what I mean? So, but tuning into the fact that, obviously we were created by something. Obviously our bodies are technological. I mean, there's this geometry, there's this technology, our DNA, like how could this have possibly been a random accident that it's kind of the viewpoint of modern science is just, oh whoops, these particles bump together and now we have these incredibly complex body mechanisms that work together and we're all um anyways, I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but yeah, if you don't want to have qigong be a spiritual practice, it doesn't have to be. It will affect your practice in the sense that maybe you won't find a certain clarity, a certain peace, a certain feeling of connection with all life, a certain connection with the universe, a certain, understanding that our energy is infinite beyond this temporary incarnation in this body, and that we keep creating in other realms beyond death. It's whatever you want to make it to be. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up here. I'm going to take just a few more questions. Resident Warrior says, why do you encourage jacking it even though edging can enlarge the prostate easier? Here's the thing. Yes, if you're doing edging in the wrong way, I would say, where you're just going right to the edge, you're about to ejaculate. Yes, that makes your prostate swell up with fluid and it's uncomfortable. Even if you're doing that though, you can, if you occasionally ejaculate, it'll release the pressure. If you massage the prostate, if you do, uh, certain stimulation techniques, it's going to clear that, right? Also, but the path I'm really focused, what I'm really sharing, the technique is not going to lead to this super enlarged, overswelling the prostate with fluid, which happens when you're right on the edge of ejaculation. When you stay relaxed, when you don't get right to that point constantly, but you disperse the energy flowing through your body, it doesn't build up in the genitals. It moves to the rest of the body. I've been doing this for almost a decade. No prostate issues. Derek says, why is it I can't seem to feel much during a particular Qigong practice? For instance, during the Dragon Orbit practice, I can never feel anything, but with every other practice from the Multi-Orgasmic Man course, I always feel the chi flowing very tangibly. You know, it depends. There's probably something you're not quite doing quite. I don't want to say you're doing it wrong, but like there's probably something you could be doing better during the Dragon Orbit form because when you do that, in a certain way, I mean, Qigong in general, it just boom, blasts you up in general. Working with the Dantian more, I would say making sure everything's relaxed. So like when you do Zhuang and you really sink into the earth, that must be the kind of starting point for your Qigong practice. Everything's the spine is like aligned. You feel your weight, like your tailbone. It feels like your tailbone sinking into your feet, into the earth. That creates that grounding connection. Then you move from that space, boom, you're blasting up with chi. Make sure you're relaxed. Make sure your shoulders are sinking. If you're raising your shoulders during Qigong, you're cutting off the circulation here. You're not going to feel anything. You're just flapping your arms around, right? Everything's sunken as a unit. What I recommend doing is pick one orbit, pick one movement from the Dragon Orbit form. I think that embracing sun and moon or the marriage of heaven and earth would be the best ones to do this with, and do them incredibly slowly, as if you're doing Zhuang. So you keep the Zhuang engagements through every like micro adjustment as you move. It's like, oh, I moved. I lift my shoulders. Let's sink, sink. Focus on the dulling points, sinking into the earth. It will take your practice to a new level. Try that. I practice Tai Chi like that a lot, where it's like super, super slow. It's just like a constant moving, standing Zhuang practice. So powerful. That will take your practice to another level. One thing I'm going to share with you guys, play with this. Or I think I shared this one in my other lives, but um, this will light up your hands if you have some qigong experience. So if you've ever dipped your hand in wax and like it kind of crusts up, and you move your finger and it like starts breaking apart. So imagine you just put your hand in wax, just this like palm part of your hand. You just dip that half in wax, and as it's that very slight stretch, the slight engagement, that beautiful lady's hand, the hand shape. And it's not a very manly description. We'll call it chi hands, right? So imagine that you're stretching your fingers. You're not stretching them physically. You're just kind of this feeling of extension, and that there's like this wax coating that's starting to break on your fingers. I mean, just doing this lights me up. It goes all the way through my torso. So play with that as you're doing qigong. See what happens. Okay, guys, I think that wraps it up for today. Vitor Careza is a really great practice, actually. It's a phenomenal practice. I teach a version of it in my course, and I have a video of it here on YouTube. It's a great practice. Will help you get out of this, like, it helps you get out of the, like, need to rush to an ejaculatory orgasm type of approach during sex. Careza is wonderful for rewiring you to a more full body orgasm type of experience. Not peak, valley orgasm experience. Okay, guys, thanks for joining. Always good to see you. Again, join my male sexual mastery secrets training next week. It's free. Sign up. There's a link on the top of the chat in the description of this video. Instagram bio, it's there. Male sexual mastery secrets. You're going to learn how to overcome premature ejaculation, how to breathe during sex so you can last as long as you want, how to move your sexual energy through your body, how to have non-ejaculatory orgasms, full body orgasms, how to transmute the sexual energy so it's not just stuck in your balls, and channel your sexual energy into creating abundance, creating amazing things, whatever you want in your life. Join me next week and we'll do that. Okay, guys, have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.